Alright, so the next thing we're going to be doing is making the fingers, or whatever you want to call them, for the face. And I've already made the majority of them, but I'm going to show you how to make them now. There's going to be two sizes, a longer one and a shorter one. So on both sides of the head, there will be a shorter one on top, a longer one in the middle, and then a shorter one again on the bottom. So we're gonna have 4 shorter ones and 2 longer ones. And they're made the exact same way, except one just has 1 more row of single crochets than the other one. So what we're going to go ahead and do now is make our magic ring with the yarn again. And we're going to chain to attach our fluffy yarn to our regular acrylic yarn. Or you can make a magic ring with the fluffy yarn again, like I said before. And we're going to go ahead and make 4 single crochets into our magic ring. One, 2, 3, and 4. And then we're going to close this up. You can just pull both of them to close it. And this is going to be a little bit tricky to work in rows with this, but you're just gonna have to do your best. So we're going to go ahead and slip stitch into our first single crochet, making sure that our slip stitch is workable. Now obviously this is going to be too tight to turn inside out like the other ones to work around this, so we're gonna have to weave those in at the end. So we're gonna go ahead and make 3 rounds of 4 single crochets. 2, 3, 4. And if you don't want to count the rounds, all you have to do is make 12 single crochets and just continuously, and then you should get the same results. So I'm going to make my second round. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then our third round. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then to finish off, we're just going to slip stitch into the next single crochet and chain to fasten off, and we're going to leave a tail again to sew it on. And that is how you make the small fingers. And then we're just going to go up here to pull the tail down and through, which you can then use for stuffing these if you want, but I'm just going to go ahead and cut it off. And then for our magic ring, you want to make sure that it's pulled as tightly as possible to make sure it's going to stay closed. And then I'm just going to double knot it. And the good thing about this fluffy yarn is it hides the knot, especially after you hide the ends. So I'm going to be using a smaller darning needle for this part. Oops. And just stick it down and through. And then we're just going to do the same thing with the other one and try and pull them through the same place so that the knot kind of disappears into the yarn. There we go. I'll just make sure that it's pushed out as far as possible. You don't want to pull the end in and make it shorter. Cut off the ends. And there we have the first one. So you're going to need to make 4 of these small ones. I have them all right here, and you should, 40, end up with 4 of these. And now it's time for the longer one. So again, we're going to need our acrylic yarn for our magic ring. Again, we're going to chain to join, and this is working exactly the same as the other one. So we'll just chain to join and make 4 single crochets again into our magic ring. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Pull the magic ring tight and pull this so that it doesn't make a weird loop sticking out. And then we're going to slip stitch into our first single crochet once again. And now we're going to make 4 rounds of single crochets, or like I said before, you can just make 16 single crochets continuously and then you should get the same effect. So 1, 2, 3, 3, and 4. And that is our first round. And then again, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Second round complete. Our next round. 1, 2, 3, 4, and that is our third round, and that is where we worked for the how far we worked for the short ones. And then for our longer ones, we're just going to make 1 more round. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then we're going to slip stitch into our next single crochet and chain to fasten off. And again, leave a long enough piece at the end again that you can sew it on later without too much difficulty, because I usually cut them too short and then it's hard to sew them on with a long needle. So you're actually going to probably want them longer than that. So we're going to go ahead and pull the tail through once again. And cut it off. And then we're going to make sure these are pulled very tightly and tie a knot. And then we're going to thread them back through. And there we have all of them done. You're going to want to make another long one and then 3 more short ones. And now it's time to sew them all onto the head. So we're going to grab our little axolotl, and I'm going to sew these on before I do the arms, just so I can position it the way that I want it. And I'm going to start with the bottom ones. One thing that you might want to do is do a different color of pink, but I only had 1 color, or 1 shade of pink, so that is what I'm going to be using. So I'm going to be starting with the lower ones down here. I don't want to make them too close to the bottom, but I also want to make sure that it turns the way I want it. So you're going to have to do a little bit of planning with this. No, it's the other long one. So it's going to look something like this. And like I said, you're going to want to have left longer tails on than I did here. Unless of course you're going to use acrylic yarn to sew them on, that would also be a good idea. So I'm just going to select a stitch for the outside loop of one, and we'll pull it through and see how we want to position this. I think that's too close to the face. Gonna do the one right behind it. I think that will be best. Oops. Just like that. So I'm working 2 rows up from the base. Just go ahead and pull that right through and tighten it a little bit. And then we have the first one attached. Just like that. So it's going to be a little bit complicated to sew all of them on while videoing, so I think I'm going to go ahead and do the rest of these off camera, because I'm going to have to turn it in different ways. I'll try one more. And I'm going to skip 1 row and insert this one in the second row from the last place that I worked on, the bottom finger. Just gonna pull that through and then come through here and through the next stitch. And then we're gonna, sometimes if you have your yarn too short like I do, what you can do is insert the needle before you put the thread through, or the yarn. This isn't exactly thread. And then you can pull it through. Just like that. And then I'm going to go ahead and hide this end. So now I have the second one attached. That's how it's looking so far. And I'm going to go ahead and do the rest of these, and then I will be right back and we'll attach the arms. Okay, I have gotten all of the fingers attached to the head, and this is how it looks so far. Before we keep going, I guess we could probably think about doing the face. So you're going to grab about like a 6-inch piece of black yarn, and that's what we're going to be using for the smile. I'm going to come in from the side, and we're going to insert it right about here. And right about here, I believe. And we don't want it just to be one small slit, so I'm going to come back in here and kind of bring my needle out right in the center, right here. There we go. And then the plan is to bring it out and then insert it, or make the needle come out right in the same place where we put it in. There we go. And you might have to mess around with this a little bit. So pull this out. And you want to pull that pretty tight without making the smiley too tight. Just about like that. I think that's about how we want it. And then to fasten this off, we're just gonna tie it. And since we should have come out at the same spot, the knot should be very easy to just stuff into the head. The keyword is should be. And then we're just going to, actually I think the bigger needle would work better for this. and then we'll just hide it. There we go. Okay, it's now time to make the arms. We're going to be using our acrylic yarn for our magic ring again, and we're just going to attach the fluffy pink yarn again with a chain into our magic ring, and then we're going to make 4 single crochets in this magic ring. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then we're going to pull that tight, pull that out. And then we're going to slip stitch into our first single crochet. And now what we're going to do is we're going to increase in every stitch around, which should take us from 4 single crochets to 8 single crochets. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And now we're going to make 5 rounds of single crochets. 1, 2, and then I'm going to be using my stitch marker. So that's 2, and there we go. We're going to be making 5 rounds of single crochets, making sure to keep 8 stitches in every round. And once you've got your 5 rounds of single crochets done, come back here and then I'll show you what we're going to do next. Alright, once you've completed the 5 rows of single crochets, what we're going to do to finish off this arm is just go with our 2 loose slip stitches to even it off, and then we're going to leave a small amount for sewing, which again should have been longer than that. And then we're going to make 2 of these, and we're going to connect them to our axolotl. Alright, now that we have the 2 arms made, we're going to connect them to the body. And I'm going to be attaching them like this, like I do with all the plushies that I make. I just like the way that looks better than down. It's like it wants to give a hug. I don't know. And I'm probably going to be putting them a little bit in front of the fingers, which they might get a little bit in the way. So if you wanted to, if you're watching this before you make it, you might want to move them up a little further. But honestly, I don't really mind how that looks. So I'm going to be attaching them right here. I'll just put them here for size measurement, or for size to show you guys what I'm doing. So it's going to look kind of like this. And I'm going to go ahead and just pick up a stitch here so that I can mark where I'm going to be placing this. I think just like that. And then it's just like we did with all of the fingers. Except before we have this thing on completely, we're going to want to stuff it a little bit, which you can use yarn for this and it should be fine. I have a couple ends from the pink fluffy yarn that I'm probably going to use to stuff this. And we'll just pick this one up here and come here and then back down and up through here and pull that tight. And then again, you'll probably want to tie it off on one of the first stitches that we made. And then we'll just hide the tail in the body once again. And cut that off. And there we have our first arm attached. And we're just going to go ahead and do this on the other side as well. Okay, and now it's time to make the tail for our axolotl. So we're going to again start with our magic ring. And we're going to connect our fluffy pink yarn in by chaining. And then we're going to make 4 single crochets into our magic ring. 2, 3, and 4. And then close up the ring. And we're going to slip stitch into our first single crochet. And we're going to slip stitch into it. There we go. And then we're going to increase in each of the 4 stitches until we have 8 stitches in a round. So this is 3, 4, 5, 6 in the 3rd stitch, and 7 and 8 in the 4th stitch. We're going to go ahead and flip it, I think, at this point. And also just make sure that the magic ring is closed tightly at this point. You can go ahead and tie it off as well. And we should have 8 stitches in a round. So what we're going to do for our next round is make a single crochet once in every single stitch around. 1 and 2. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Then for our next round, we're going to be having a repeat of 1 single crochet followed by an increase in the next stitch. And then this should take us from 8 stitches to 12 stitches. So 1 single crochet followed by an increase. One single crochet followed by an increase. And one more time. Perfect. And now we're going to do 2 rounds of just single crocheting around, keeping the same number of 12 stitches. It's our first round, and then we're going to make our second round. 1, 2. Perfect. And for our next round, our repeat is going to be 1 single crochet followed by a decrease. And this should take you back down to 8 stitches in a round. 1 single crochet followed by a decrease. 1 single crochet followed by a decrease. And now our next round is going to be 4 decreases to get back down to 4 single crochets in a round. That's our first decrease, our second decrease, our third decrease, and our fourth. Just going to take this out because it's kind of in my way. There we go. And now we have 4 stitches around the top. So at this point, we're just going to slip stitch into our first stitch and use that to do our slip stitch and fasten off. And we're going to leave a tail for sewing on. And then we're going to sew this on to the back of our axolotl. So right about here. And we're just going to be making several stitches back and forth because it is supposed to be flatter, so it's alright if it doesn't, it's not really supposed to look that round. And I'm just going to be coming back and forth, if you guys can see, through just a couple stitches and back through the top and out to the side. And then back down through here. And then connect it to there, and I think that will be good. I'm gonna go ahead and cut this off. And that is the end of our axolotl. I'll go ahead and zoom out here. Okay guys, so this is the finished product, the axolotl right here. It's going to be almost a foot tall, and yeah, that's just what it looks like. I'll see if I can turn it around and show you the back. And this is what it looks like from the back with the tail attached and everything. So yeah, that is the finished product. Thank you so much for watching my YouTube video. If you liked it, please leave a like or a comment, and don't forget to subscribe so that you don't miss on any future tutorials. I'll see you guys next time.